And good morning, everybody. Welcome. Hot Takes, Goodman and Haertl. And Bruce, it's nice to start a Thursday morning with a win. It's nice to start a Thursday morning with the Masters. How are you?
Yeah, looking forward to the one last night, which we got, and looking forward to the round today, which I watched some of the par three and the practice rounds yesterday. My God, every single time that we get to April in the spring, and the tradition unlike any others, friends, it's just kind of a rejuvenation. As much as the beginning of the baseball season for me, to get to the Masters, it's so much fun. As it relates to the Nuggets last night, Eric, they got a jump from the change. Remember, Josh Kroenke is giving these guys the best chance that they can have to win an NBA championship in 2025. You got to take that first step. Last night was a good one, albeit in Sacramento against a bad team, but plenty to talk about with the Nuggets this morning, who played 48 minutes of pretty decent basketball.
By the way, before we just brush it off as, well, new coach, they got a little bit of a push. That's to be expected. There were some changes last night. There were definitely some, I don't want to say significant, but changes enough where it was noticeable on the floor and in the locker room. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, I want to let you know about Roller Auction, the leader in Colorado auctions for over 45 years. On Thursday, April 17th, there's a pair of auctions featuring SUVs, trucks, work trucks, equipment, and more. The bidding is started at rollerauction.com. Don't forget to go to rollerauction.com to learn about upcoming auctions. Get what you want at the price you want today at Roller Auction. Time now for the lead.
The lead is presented by Smokin' Dave's Barbecue. It is not just the best barbecue in town, it's one of the best restaurants in town. You can find Smokin' Dave's Barbecue in Denver, Lyons, Longmont, Estes Park, and Greeley.
The Aristotle, Plato of the team, Nikola Jokic, to come up with the line of the night that you can make the case is provocative and interesting and makes you think, maybe he's right. After the Nuggets won last night, Jokic said, "The beast is most dangerous when it is vulnerable." I know it's one game, Bruce. Kings are not even 500. But did the beast look a little bit more dangerous? And I know that, Sacramento is not a great team. The Nuggets are currently the 5th seed right now. Do they look like a team right now? I know it is one game that can avoid the play-in, as they have a one-game lead over Golden State, who inexplicably lost to San Antonio last night.
Yeah, well, I mean, as long as they keep getting results like that, Minnesota blowing a lead against Milwaukee 2 nights ago, Golden State last night, and they take care of their business, they'll be in relatively good shape. Look, this should have been a team vying for the second spot in the West. Houston kind of just stretched it out over them, and now the Lakers are in a much better position as well. They got a good win last night. So it is what it is. I think that it is, at best, their chances would be slight against Oklahoma City. I think Houston is a load for them. I think the Lakers would be difficult for them at this point. And we already know the Timberwolves are a load for the Nuggets. But, you got to start somewhere. This is a team that's 48-32. They're 16 games above 500. At the end of the day, their record says who they are. Now, how much faith you have in that remains to be seen. Last night, they shot the ball well. They defended okay. Pickett is giving them really good minutes right now. Really good minutes. Intriguing minutes. That has changed for me. I was wrong about Jalen Pickett. This guy looks like he can be a player in this system. But they won the game at the free throw line. They got to the line. They made free throws. They scored the same amount of field goals as Sacramento did. Sacramento was better than they were from three-point range, but they took care of the ball. They won the battle of the boards, and they hit free throws when they had to, and it was enough to make the difference in a win. A win that really, if you think about it, Eric, they probably should have gotten, considering all of the tumult over the last 24 hours. And I say that meaning, if you don't get a little extra jolt or a little extra boost from a move like this, when are you going to get it, right?
Okay. So we talked about it going into the show that there were some subtle differences in last night's win, where now you know who the coach is. Michael Malone liked to do things his way. And we saw, even in just one game, that David Adelman likes to do it his way. This might be the most significant. Did you know that Russell Westbrook played his second fewest minutes of the season last night? He played 17 minutes. That was it. He was getting 20, 25 minutes a game coming off the bench. I'm not talking about as a starter. Jalen Pickett played 31 minutes, 18 points, also had 5 of 7 3-pointers. Here's a little fun fact. This is why everybody should use ChatGPT. So I'm looking at the Nuggets box score, and I'm thinking, wow, Jalen Pickett is 2 points away from 20, and everybody else has 20 plus. How many times has a team had 5 starters score 20 points or more? It's only happened 6 times in NBA history. The Nuggets almost did it last night. But getting back to Russell Westbrook, that was Malone's guy, a veteran. Jalen Pickett, not really Malone's guy. Calvin Booth's guy, but not Malone's guy. And if Calvin Booth was still there, you can make the argument, well, David Adelman might be currying favor with Calvin Booth. That's why he's playing Pickett more. There's no influence of Calvin Booth. Maybe this is what David Adelman wanted, or this is what David Adelman wanted. Maybe David Adelman sided with Calvin Booth and not Michael Malone. At least for one game, that's the way it looked. And if Jamal Murray comes back, I'll be curious to see who gets the minutes behind Murray. Is it going to be Pickett or is it going to be Westbrook? Right now, one game in, it looks like it's Pickett over Westbrook.
I would agree with that. Westbrook still figured out a way to get 11 shots up in 17 minutes. So, I mean, his presence was noted. But to your point, it's a good one. That is a change in workflow, play flow, minutes that David Adelman put into being. He also made the comment that, to the point in his pregame remarks, or maybe his postgame remarks, that the voice had to be different. We know the message, but the message has to be delivered in a different fashion. I don't take that as a slight to Michael Malone. I think that though just being around this team, you started to sense that voice hadn't been heard, that the message was being pounded into them, and guys just basically stopped listening to it. So you can have the same message imparted, but in a different way. And hopefully that's what will resonate coming from David Adelman. So if they get that, then it'll be a good thing for the Nuggets. How much it will propel them down the line in the playoffs, that remains to be seen. You still got to guard guys. You still got to close out on 3-point shots. The issues that Michael Malone had with this team probably still exist, but how are you handling them now if you're David Adelman in the very short time that you have to reinvent the Nuggets. I don't think you reinvent them. You reshape them a little bit. And to your point, they did that last night with Jalen Pickett.
Here's some other subtle differences that we saw in last night's game, or that we saw in the locker room, because the Nuggets always send out that video. What did we see on the floor? Jokic, far more vocal in the huddle. I'm actually he had the whiteboard in his hand.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think Michael Malone would have willingly given Nikola Jokic his whiteboard? Do you think if Jokic wanted to pull the whiteboard out of Malone's hand, it would have been a tug of war? I found that interesting. Didn't you?
Yes, I found it interesting. I think Nikola Jokic over the last year and change has been more animated. I thought he was extra animated last night. By all accounts, he addressed the team out in Sacramento before the game, the day before the game. He did confirm that it was not a discussion when he was notified of the change. It was a decision that he was told of. He got a little bit of a head start on it. I thought that was interesting. But it's where they go from here now. And I think that we understand the issues that Josh Kroenke had with Michael Malone. I think that it's still fair to question the timing of it, but here we are. And the fact of the matter is there are still only 2 games left in the regular season before we go to the playoffs, and then everything changes. David Adelman is sitting on an opportunity right now to change the very course of his career. Because you can't imagine a scenario where if he takes them a couple of rounds into the playoffs or deep into the playoffs in the West, that a guy that interviewed for the Lakers job last year and has been on the wish lists of teams around the NBA wouldn't get a good chance here in Denver. It would just make sense.
Right. So when I watched Jokic, I mean, of course he's going to talk to his teammates on the floor. But physically holding that whiteboard, that's a look that you really don't see in any type of professional basketball, do you? I mean, rarely.
How many guys would you as a player be fine with grabbing the whiteboard and starting to diagram things? I think
hold on a second. Hold on. In a coach's first game, doesn't it at least give off the appearance that Jokic is stepping on Adelman's toes? So I'm going to answer my own question. Adelman was fine with it.
Totally.
Not only was he fine with it, he encouraged it. After the game, he said to the guys in the locker room, he liked the way that the players communicated with each other during timeouts and during the game. But here's the line. He said, players don't always need the coaches to do the talking. He needs the players to take responsibility for doing some of the talking, as long as it's done in the right way. And what we saw last night was done in the right way. I am not so sure that has a lot of legs for the next 10 years. I think that can work in spurts, because players and coaches do get heated in the moment.
Yeah.
And Adelman kept stressing, do it in the right way, do it in the right way. You mentioned the quote that he had before the game, which was, constructive criticism is good, but I think there's got to be a better way to communicate with this group. And I think that will lead to better play. That's more constructive criticism where there isn't a type of yelling.
Right.
When we watched last night's game, that was done well. I don't think there can be a long-term plan for Nikola Jokic to hold the whiteboard. I just don't. And I don't think guys on the floor, it needs to be constructive and somewhat positive where they're not barking at each other. I understand that, right? But I want to add something else to this. Adelman didn't give out a defensive player of the game channel.
No.
That was a Malone thing. And the thing that I found most interesting was this. How did the Nuggets always end their huddle? They all put their hands in. 1, 2, 3, family. Remember that?
Yep.
That's gone. It's now Nuggets. And I found that interesting because I'm guessing after 10 years with Michael Malone, if you start tuning out dad, which I think they did with Michael Malone, when you say the word family, you don't feel like a family at that point. It feels kind of dysfunctional. So you're like 1, 2, 3, family. When you're winning and things are good, you do feel like a family. But this year, I don't think it really did. So you're just saying the words. So I think that Adelman, not out of any disrespect for Michael Malone,
no,
made some subtle changes.
Right.
No change last night. Saying Nuggets, saying feel free to talk to each other during timeouts. After one game, Adelman, along with playing Russell Westbrook just 17 minutes, has already made some subtle changes in 24 hours. He is starting to put his stamp on this team, whether it be for just 3 games with the interim tag or more than 3 games without the interim head coach tag.
If Nikola Jokic speaks, you better listen. Nikola Jokic is one of those very rare players, and you talk about him grabbing the whiteboard. When he starts diagramming something, it's something that he has seen in the course of a game. Remember a couple of weeks ago in the aftermath of the game against Minnesota, in the locker room afterwards, the Timberwolves were talking about plays that they were running, and the Nuggets knew what was coming because Jokic was so in tune with what they were trying to do. There are just those rare guys, Gretzky in hockey, who see things before they start to develop. They notice something. There's something that becomes evident to them. And so when you're talking about the type of IQ that a Nikola Jokic has, when he starts to suggest things, or if he is moved enough to get off of center, which for him is normally just playing within himself, a quiet leader, leads by example. But when he starts to challenge you or challenge the group collectively, I think he's a guy that you better listen to and take your cues from, because he's better than you are. And that's anyone listening to him. He's better than you are. And chances are he's a hell of a lot better than you are and a hell of a lot smarter than you are. I'm comfortable with that dynamic. And the thing that's best, to your point, is that David Adelman is comfortable with that too. That can go a long ways. Now, can it win you a series? It remains to be seen. But it was a good start last night, and I agree with you. David Adelman deserves his flowers for the 48 minutes because he didn't try to change everything dramatically. He took the good things that maybe he had some questions about, maybe he and Josh Kroenke had talked about, and subtly adjusted the good things that this team can do and has shown itself to be capable of at various times this season.
Well, so the change has been made. One game in, David Adelman's the head coach. George Karl, who likes to go on X, has his thoughts. And he sings the praises of Adelman's basketball IQ. Where is he? I don't want to say concerned, but where could there be a pothole in David Adelman's road to becoming the full-time head coach? It's a good point by George, and we'll talk about it next.
Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos in Blackhawk have another incredible promotion. They'll be giving away a Ford Bronco Raptor or nearly $30,000 in cash the weekend of May 23rd. Get finalist entries from 10 a.m. until midnight during their daily cash drawings every 45 minutes or by redeeming player points. And all daily cash drawings that don't get picked are eligible for a second chance drawing on Wednesdays, and that can turn into extra cash. Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos, a family-owned casino that treats you like family.
Everyone has their favorite sports bar. Mine, the Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch in the DTC. Both locations are everything a sports bar should be. An upscale menu with 12 different burgers, outstanding wings, and my favorite, the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. They've got every game on the NFL Sunday Ticket, MLB Extra Innings, NHL Center Ice, NBA League Pass, plus soccer, rugby, and UFC. Sportsbook is a hangout bar or great for private parties. The Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, the DTC, and coming soon to Parker. They are the sports bar.
Ever wondered where city and county fleet vehicles go when they retire? Now's your chance to find out and score big. Imagine driving away with a great deal on a reliable vehicle. For over 45 years, Roller Auction has been the trusted source for government fleet vehicles and equipment. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, and more, all selling to the highest bidder. Don't miss out. Visit roller.bid/hot takes to get auction updates today. Your next vehicle could be just a click away.
Everyone has their favorite barbecue spot. Mine, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. My favorites, slowly smoked ribs, smoked corned beef Reuben, smoked meatloaf with a portobello balsamic cream sauce. And don't forget about Smokin' Dave's 16-hour smoked brisket and pork with one of their 4 homemade barbecue sauces. Great sides, you bet. Barbecue beans made with pork and brisket and their southern corned bake. Man, you gotta try it. Plus, they have amazing non-barbecue entrees on the menu. Go where I go, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew in North Denver. So you just heard about Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. I want to continue on that and tell you something else that I absolutely love from them. The Heart Attack. It is 2 jalapeno cheddar biscuits topped with bacon, pulled pork, shredded cheese, 2 over easy eggs, house-made sausage gravy. I've said this to other people, and they probably look at me like I'm nuts. It's not just the best barbecue spot in town, Bruce. I think it's one of the best restaurants in town.
Yeah.
Because their desserts are homemade as well. The bread pudding is outstanding. I like that they put homemade chips on your table right when you get there. Just everything is just made so well. It's not your typical barbecue place. I mean, the ribs are amazing. You heard in the ad about the smoked meatloaf. Their wings are big. They have smoked onion rings that are like the size of truck tires. They're amazing. They are. And it's just so good. Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. If you want to find them in the Denver area, they're off of 36 and Pecos. They're up in Lyons. They're up in Estes Park. You should absolutely go check them out. In the meantime, I want to read something that George Karl put on X yesterday. This is about David Adelman. He said, David Adelman is a real basketball guy, knows his stuff. The question is going to be what kind of connections he has with his players. And I think that's a very salient point because Michael Malone, for a very long time, had a real connection with his players. And he certainly knew his X's and O's. Phil Jackson is a guy who had a real connection with his players. We don't know that yet about David Adelman.
No. And that will be, and when you talk about the ramp up and the boost into cyberspace, that's where it's going to come. You got to get, that has got to get figured out very, very quickly. Now, he's been there for a lot of years. He was Michael Malone's right-hand man for many years. He has the system. Now it's just a question of the tweaks that he makes. And really, I think that what we're saying is it was a very positive start in not an overly dramatic way, but a very effective way for David Adelman last night. Let's see if he continues to be able to reach guys and get things out of them, particularly on the defensive end. They weren't great last night defensively, but they were good enough to win a game that they outscored their opponents in. That's how the Nuggets generally win. It would be nice to see a game or so of a team really battening down the hatches and trying to win a game a tough, old-fashioned way. Who knows? Look, maybe I'm asking too much. At this point, you're just trying to put one foot in front of the other. And that's what the Nuggets did last night. Congrats.
There's a difference between a fresh voice and the right voice.
You're right.
Let's go back to Broncos history. Yeah. Josh McDaniels, who was after him, it was a fresh voice, but the right voice in John Fox. I'll tell you, David Adelman reminds me a little of, and it's going to sound like I'm taking a dig at him, but I'm not, because that type of personality is not only endearing to me, but I think it's endearing to the players. David Adelman reminds me of Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel. Seems a little awkward, a little nerdy, knows his stuff, self-deprecating. I mean, he was getting an ovation in the locker room after last night's game. And he's like, guys, I've been here all year. I mean, maybe you didn't listen to me, but you don't have to applaud me. I've been here all year. And it made me chuckle, right?
Yeah.
He does know his stuff. He doesn't seem like an overly strong personality. He just seems like a really smart guy that you will respect. And he has already made some of those subtle changes that we talked about in the first segment. At least last night, there's no chain for defensive player of the game, which I know Dick's Sporting Goods is going to be very upset about because they sell a lot of them. Okay. So that marketing is now out the window. It's now 1, 2, 3 Nuggets, not 1, 2, 3 family, because I'm guessing by the time Michael Malone left, the family felt a wee bit dysfunctional. So when you're yelling family, you're kind of like, I don't know if I really want to yell family, at this point. And then the thing with Russell Westbrook only playing 17 minutes.
Yeah. Eric, sometimes, and we're talking about the way the message is delivered. The message can be the same message, but sometimes a hammer isn't as effective as a feather. And every now and then you have a way to communicate that can reach guys in a different way. You and I have been talking about the Nuggets tuning out Michael Malone for a good portion of the back end of the season. And that's evidenced in their record. They're 12-13 since the All-Star break, even with the win last night. This has not been a good basketball team. Can you coax something out of them that allowed them to get to 48 wins? They could still get to 50 by winning the next 2 games, and then maybe have a little momentum going into the postseason. These are the strings now that David Adelman is trying to pull, and he's not yanking them. He's just kind of massaging those strings. Will he continue to do it, and will he continue to have success doing it? That's the big question for me moving forward.
I want to take it a step back a bit, though. I don't know if what I'm about to say through this report was Calvin Booth infused, but Brian Windhorst, who knows his stuff, suggested that Josh Kroenke had thought about firing Michael Malone earlier in the season, but then they went on an 8-game winning streak, and you're certainly not going to fire a guy during an 8-game winning streak, right? And then they started losing. And maybe the reason why Josh Kroenke chose now instead of waiting was, what if the Nuggets make a run in the playoffs? Then you can't get rid of Michael Malone. So instead of possibly watching this team take off under a guy that you want to get rid of, just do it now. Does any of that add up to you?
I would listen to it. I mean, it doesn't. It makes some sense. It's a connect the dot kind of principle that I think that you can get behind. I wouldn't dismiss it out of hand. Certainly, timing is a always conspicuous thing. The timing of firing a guy 3 games before the playoffs start was shocking, I think, by just about anyone's account. But here we are, and let's see how this thing plays out. What has to happen? Okay, let me put it to you this way, Eric. What has to happen for you to judge the end of this season as a success?
Winning a first-round series, sadly.
Okay. Yeah, to me, that's where it starts. Because yesterday, or 2 days ago, rather, I probably wasn't in the camp of giving them much of a chance, even in the first round, not even knowing who they were going to play. Right. So now my sights have changed a little bit. Okay. Altered. Get me through the first round. And then, you know what? Let's check the matchup and see what happens then. And that's what you hope for if you're Josh Kroenke.
You know what I'm wondering? And I don't know why I didn't think about this when the news broke on firing Michael Malone and Calvin Booth, both. Who did Josh consult with about this? I'm not saying he didn't consult with anybody. He didn't consult with his GM about firing Michael Malone, right? Who did he consult with? Stan, who's never around? And how often is Josh honestly really around? I'm not saying it's the wrong decision. I'm not suggesting for a minute that Josh does not know what he's doing. Listen, he oversees the Avalanche and the Nuggets, two teams that have won championships, at least one championship over the last 3+ years, whatever it is. Josh Kroenke does know what he's doing in general. I could question, does he know what he's doing when he almost had Calvin Booth sign a new contract and then fired him? Agreeing to let MPJ get a new deal when he hadn't proven anything, agreeing to letting Jamal Murray get a new deal when you knew that he was injured. There are things that you can question, but when you look at the overall body of work of Josh Kroenke, still looks pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you have to give him credit where it's due. You don't win championships by mistake. You have good people around you. You delegate,
But who are those people when he decided to fire Malone?
I don't know.
That's
a great question. That's a great question.
His dad's not around. And it's not to say, well, it's daddy's team. I'm not suggesting that. Josh Kroenke runs the Avalanche and the Nuggets. Who did he consult with?
Well, that he had to make a call to Stan and say, "Hey, Dad, I'm thinking hard about this," and that he had to set up the flagpole at least.
Right. But who is he consulting with in the building?
Great question. Don't know.
Is he consulting with one of the assistant coaches? Is he consulting with maybe his head scout? Who is he consulting with?
Yeah, I don't know the pecking order of relationships that Josh has within the team. At some point, obviously, he had to talk with David Adelman. That probably happened fairly early in the process.
But what do you say in that conversation? Yeah. Hey, we're thinking of firing Mike. What do you think?
Not that. No, not that. The decision had been made, and it was up to David Adelman as to whether or not he was going to get on board. And of course, he's going to get on board. At the end of the day, we call it what it is. This is an opportunity for David Adelman, who has the most enriching friendship and working relationship with Michael Malone of maybe any assistant coach with his head coach in the NBA. Look how long they have been a team. Right. That's not the issue. And David Adelman has talked glowingly about Michael Malone, as well he should. But he's also a guy looking for an opportunity. And one now has fallen in his lap. And it is an opportunity that in a short amount of time, he has a chance to make a very loud impression. And he took the first step last night. A subtle win, but wins are what this team needs right now. And if you can get these going into the postseason, it's only going to enhance David Adelman's cachet for a head coaching job. If not in Denver, then somewhere else.
Let me add on to this in two ways. Number one, the story is now out that Jokic found out about this after the decision was made.
Yep.
But I can't imagine that Josh Kroenke was so tone deaf that he did not know that a decision being made would have been okay with Jokic, right? He must have known that Jokic would not have given a lot of pushback. The one thing that I did notice about last night's game was, even though the score at times was close, and I'm not going to suggest the game was never in doubt, and the Nuggets, there was no way they were going to lose this game. It was one of those games that for the first time in a while, and there have been some examples where it's been this way with what I'm about to say, it felt like kind of comfortable, like they weren't taking a lead for granted, or they weren't coming from behind because they did stupid things. Overall, they played a more than pretty good game last night. Defensively, they didn't close out on some things, and they need some different players and things like that. But how many times are you going to get a team with the starting five to score 18 points or more, where everybody is contributing? Michael Porter Jr. hitting threes. There was a run early from, Aaron Gordon, going all dunkathon because of great passes from Nikola Jokic. Everybody chipped in their own way. And the one thing that was nice to see was they didn't need another 40 to 50-point performance out of Nikola Jokic, because we both know that's not how they're going to win games consistently.
The spreading it around and involving everyone was really nice to see. Yeah. For anyone to think that this can be the way that it is moving forward, you used the stat earlier in the show. It's only happened 6 times in NBA history. That's the entire time they've been playing in the NBA, that 5 starters have had 20 or more points. Right. So it's probably not a sustainable.
No, and I didn't mean it that way, Bruce.
No, I know. I'm not saying that you did.
You're getting at least 12 points a game from most of these guys. From all of your starters, you're getting some sort of contribution where it's not like 8 points.
When the ball is going through the hoop and you're not turning it over, the game looks pretty easy. And the game looked pretty easy generally for the Nuggets last night. And to your point, I think I'd have to go all the way back to maybe Houston on the road to have a game where I felt as comfortable, because I'm with you. It got to 108, 104, and it was like a little like, oh God, is this going to happen? And the answer was no. And they were able to to hit a shot, get a stop, and then lengthen out the lead a little bit, and they took care of their business at the free throw line. They're not going to win games like that every single night. But when the ball is going through the hoop and they're taking care of the ball and they're shooting that type of percentage like they did last night, that they can be a load. That's how they've won games all season. They win games by outscoring you. They don't muck up games usually with really strong defense and stuff like that. But can they be at least a little stingier, just a little stingier going into the postseason? Because if they can, they become a much tougher out. They're going to score the ball, but you got to stop guys, period. And until I see that in a consistent fashion, it's going to be hard for me to think that they can go through the West or play deep into the West. Just hard to say that right now.
Well, if you want the most updated standings on what is going on, the Nuggets are maybe that's wrong. Is this
They're
wrong
the fifth. They're the 5th seed right now.
They are the 5th seed. Yes, they are. The Nuggets are actually, according to, this is interesting. According to ESPN, the Nuggets, that's why I took a double take. The Nuggets are the 4th seed. They're tied with the Clippers. And they usually factor in all of these tie breaks. I could be wrong. They could be wrong. I'm only going by what I'm seeing. So ESPN.com is reporting. Right now, the Nuggets are the 4th seed. The Clippers are the 5th seed.
There
Memphis,
you
go. Are you looking at the same thing that I am?
Yeah, Memphis is a half game back.
Correct. But it says the Nuggets are the 4th seed right now, which is a big deal because that's home court. I can't believe that we are doing this live on air, but
well, you would let me just say this right now. You would take the matchup as it looks right now with 2 games left. at home,
Right.
home court advantage, playing the Clippers. That would
Right.
be a very good opening matchup for them.
So I'm on CBSSports.com, and they have the Nuggets as the 4th seed as well. So now what I'm doing is I'm confirming my ESPN source with a CBS Sports. That's how we do it in the media business. A couple of old guys like us. What we do is we confirm our sources with people clearly at ESPN and CBS Sports that we do not know. But according to this, the Nuggets have home court advantage against the Clippers. They win out, they're all good to go. That is going to do it for us. Bruce, great job today. Alex, who's behind the curtain, great job as well. Hot takes with Goodman and Haertl. We'll talk to you tomorrow.